Welcome to another edition of Coffee with the Goose. You know, we talk about things that are interesting, fascinating, and irritating. I'm the Goose. So glad you joined me again. No, we're not going to talk boxing. We've got some other interesting stuff to cover today. Going to take a little bit of a different path with today's show. But first, of course, we'll have a sip of coffee, as we always do. My coffee, as you know, very strong, like my opinion. No message on there. It's kind of blank. Got some creamer in there to make it sweet, and you know I'm so sweet. I try to be anyhow. All right, here we go. Today, I'm going to try something new. Again, it's about birthdays, and if this works, if you guys think this is interesting, I might just start a new channel, if you will, if you're interested in this. And each day of the year, talk about your birthday and who was born on your birthday, anybody famous, maybe somebody who died on your birthday, and historical events that happened on your birthday. And believe it or not, your birthday and you are very, very special. In God's eyes, we're all precious, right? Today happens to be my birthday. And I'm just so blessed to still be here, believe it or not, with all the dumb things I've done in my life and all the oops accidents I've had. And thanks to good doctors and a loving God, I'm still here at the tender age, just a child, mind you, 59 years old. So let's get going, shall we? January 28th. What happened on this date in history? We'll start, well, you all remember this, 1871, right? Just like it was yesterday. I'm a big history buff, by the way. On this date in 1871, Paris surrendered to guess who? Yeah, the Prussians, or Germans as they were soon to be known. 1871, they threw up the white flag, and little did they know it was going to happen again. The Russians and the Germans, I'm sorry, well, yeah, they went at it too many times, but the French and the Germans went at it many times, a lot of blood lost. Of course, the two world wars, and after the Second World War, the French got the nuclear bomb, and that was it. No more wars between France and Germany. Also in Paris, just a few years later, 1887, they began work on the Eiffel Tower, which is still a landmark and an iconic figure monument in Paris. I have not been to Paris. I've traveled a lot, but my wife, Raquel, has been there. She says it's amazing still on this date. On this date in 1814, check that, 1914, the year World War I began, Beverly Hills, California was incorporated. The famous Beverly Hills, home of many stars and many rich folk, became an official city on this date in 1814. Just 1 year later, check that, 1914. See what happens when you get older? 1 year later, 1915, the U.S. Coast Guard was established, to the fifth branch of military service in the United States. U.S. Army, of course, which I served for several years, the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Marines, U.S. Navy, and of course the U.S. Coast Guard. Happy birthday! Created on this date in 1915. A couple of years later, another city I've been to, San Francisco, used to be a good city. I'm not going to get into politics. No, don't give me that temptation. But in 1917, streetcars made their first appearance in San Francisco. Now, a very sad date, event happened on this date in January 28th in 1935. Iceland became the first nation to legalize abortion. Shame, shame, shame. And of course, pretty much every country has done it since then, but very, very sad. Let's move on to something, it happened after something very sad, the World War II. And of course, the Philippines, the home of my wife, bore a lot of the brunt and a lot of the deaths in World War II. And their president, Manuel Rojas, on this date, granted amnesty to all Filipinos who collaborated with the Japanese in World War II. That took some guts because collaborators, they're punished after the war in many cases. We see evidence of that back in Paris again. But in the Philippines, President Manuel Rojas granted amnesty to the collaborators. Quick story on that, if you don't mind. A friend of my father-in-law, Roberto, I had a chat with them years ago, and he, like many men of that generation, fought the Japanese. Filipinos don't give up, by the way. Don't pick a fight with Filipinos, okay? He was captured by the Japanese, I think it was 1944, and by that time in the war, the Japanese had pretty much had enough. They knew the end was going to be near. And they told my father-in-law's friend, they said, look, we're going to let you go, but you got to promise. Give us your honor, your word of honor. You're not going to fight us anymore. And of course, the gentleman, I can't remember his name, says, oh yeah, Scout's honor, I'm not going to fight anymore. Went right back into the hills and continued the fight, just like a good Filipino, right? Another sad event on this date in 1958, one of the greatest baseball players, maybe the greatest catcher of all time, Roy Campanella of Brooklyn Dodgers fame, right before the Dodgers moved to Los Angeles, Roy Campanella was the victim of a horrible car crash and was paralyzed from the waist down for the rest of his life. Football news on this date in 1960, the Minnesota Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys both became officially teams in the National Football League. So happy birthday to the Vikings and the Cowboys. And of course, being a Redskins fan, yeah, I still call them the Redskins. Yeah, sue me, okay? I don't like that. It's a spit. Yeah, I don't like the Cowboys. I don't think many people do like the Cowboys, unless you live in Dallas, right? Weird event in 1978. Ted Nugent, the Motor City Madman, one of the great guitarists in rock and roll history. Hey, man, this is the 70s. You do crazy things. And believe it or not, Ted Nugent never did drugs or alcohol. He was as clean as the wind-driven snow. At least his blood was. He was still crazy. He signed an autograph in 1978 on the arm of a fan using a knife. Ah, there you go. You're a Ted Nugent fan now, aren't you? Couple more events that happened in on this date, January 28th. One sad, and the other eventually became an occasion of joy. On my birthday in 1986, I was a young man of 24. I was walking through the mall, and I noticed there's a TV shop there and a bunch of people crowding around the TV. What's going on? The Space Shuttle Challenger blew up on my birthday, January 28th, 1986. On this date in 1973, here's the joyful one. I would say the Vietnam War ended, but no, it really didn't. It took a couple more years. But on this date, January 28th, 1973, the United States and North Vietnam and South Vietnam signed the peace treaty, in effect ending the war. And really, even though it took a couple more years for the North Vietnamese, the communists, to overrun South Vietnam, everybody knew the writing was on the wall, and that was really the end of the war. Thank God. Horrible, horrible war. Never should have happened. And of course, when I say that, all the shame goes on the politicians, not on the men and women who died heroically and tragically in the Vietnam War. Many, I have some good friends who served in the war. And, when I joined the Army in 1980, I only missed it by a few years, and all of my superiors were Vietnam veterans. So there was no game. It's not like video games, guys. It was a horrible, horrible war that lasted, for 8 years and cost us almost 60,000 American lives, and God knows how many Vietnamese lives they saved, maybe up to 2 million. So, at any rate, that's done, and all respect to Vietnam veterans, and respect to those veterans of the Vietnam descent, the South and the North. It was their country, and they resemble in many ways the Filipinos. They kept fighting. With the Philippines, it was first it was the Spaniards who ruled the country for hundreds of years. Then the Americans took over. Then the Japanese, and then the Americans again. And we're, of course, we're on good terms. But the Philippines is a sovereign, free state. And Vietnam, same story. They fought the Japanese. They fought the French. They fought the Americans, and like the Filipinos, the Vietnamese don't give up. And they're good people, with all respect to our veterans who fought in that war through no fault of their own. They know that, you have to honor the Vietnamese people, and they did not go down without a fight. They never went down, period. How about some birthdays on this date? One that is very impressive to me, St. Thomas Aquinas, a giant of the Catholic Church and a theologian, brilliant man, born on this date in 1225. Alan Alda, actor, of course, you remember him from the MASH television series, born in 1936. Greg Popovich, Hall of Fame coach with the San Antonio Spurs, born on my birthday, 1948. Barbie Benton, Playboy Bunny. And you know what? She actually appeared in the TV show Hee Haw, the great country music television show. Barbie Benton, born on this date of 1950, and a couple of one famous death. Francis Drake, the great explorer, died on this date in 1596. And one more quick weird story for you. My birthday is, in your birthday, filled with a lot of celebrities who died and were born, a lot of historical events. A couple of years ago, it was the birthday of one of Raquel's friends, and we went to a restaurant. We're sitting down, and of course, I'm the only white guy there, with a bunch of Filipinas, and I'm trying to make the most of it. And there was, again, being a historian, a self-proclaimed historian, I asked her friend, I said, do you know what happened on your birthday, that date in history? And she didn't know. She didn't care. So I looked it up. I can't remember the date now, but you can look it up and you'll find this out yourself. I looked it up. Oh my goodness. Tragedy. One bad event after another. It was just a horrible list. And then guess what happened? A few minutes later, I looked up at the TV mounted on the wall in this restaurant. Guess what was happening? The Notre Dame Cathedral was on fire in Paris. Unbelievable. But that's history. History is happening all around us as we speak. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Coffee with the Goose. Again, thank God, praise God for another day on this earth. I try and improve a little bit and learn a little more each day I'm around. And if it's your birthday, happy birthday to you. Just again, don't forget, you are a gem. You are a treasure in the eyes of God. And God bless you. Happy birthday. And I've got more shows to come. Stick with me, okay? Many thanks to you folks for watching, and many thanks to all of you gazillions of people who subscribe to Coffee with the Goose. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye now.